Okay, it's time already, so let me get started, and we'll see if others, if everybody who signed up comes in, will still be a small number. Yeah. Uh, so just to set the rules, if you have any questions, just ask. Don't put it in a chat or something. It gets a bit distracting, and we're a small enough group that we don't really need to do that. So uh, kind of find a natural place to interrupt, interject, and ask your question if there is any. And not too many ground rules. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining this. The session, of course, is on maintaining motivation and engagement. So let me first start with on a scale of 1 to 5, uh, how motivated and engagement do you personally feel at this time? This you can enter in the chat. On a scale of 1 to 5, Puneet, you feel motivation is 7. Brilliant. Okay. Okay. Motivated is 7 and engaged is 5. Motivation remains high, 4 up to 5. Okay. That's good. See somebody waiting. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, interesting. So you feel, the motivation is still high, the engagement is still high. That's for you personally. What do you see in your colleagues, in members of your team? Would you say it's equally high? Two groups, mostly high, but some. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Not everybody reacts the same way. Yeah. Yeah. Hi, Chax. Hi, Padmini. Thanks for joining. We're just getting started, and I started with the question of how personally, how motivated and engaged do you feel, with everything happening around you, with your work from home situation, and the answer that most people, is that most people seem to feel pretty motivated and engaged. We also saw one response, Siddharth, motivation was high, engagement was a bit low. So general question, what's the difference between motivation and engagement? Anybody wants to answer that? Like I said, please feel free to unmute yourself and respond. And while you're free to not share your video, if you can, please do. It's nice to see faces. All of us need more connection at this time. But for any reason, if you're not comfortable, that's fine as well. Yeah. So the question is, what's the difference between engagement and motivation? Anybody surprised?
Narayan, my view on this is I don't see them necessarily as different.
Okay.
I think a good level of engagement leads to motivation, and this to me, I think they move more or less together.
Okay, move more or less together, but are they the same or are they different? Anybody else? Jax, you want to say something?
I'm struggling with the voice quality here.
Oh, okay. No, saw your mic was unmuted, so I thought maybe you wanted to respond. So.
Hi, everybody. Padmini here.
Hi, Padmini.
Yeah. I feel motivation is more like a driving force. It's a driver towards getting people from one stage to the other, right?
Okay.
And this is highly essential in order to even get basic activities going. Without motivation, nothing happens either on the personal or the professional front for a person.
Okay.
Yes, engagement is on a more optional activity. Without engagement also, people can still be motivated to do things. And with engagement, yes, motivation goes to the next level. I think engagement is more optional, whereas motivation is mandatory to have, either intrinsic or extrinsic.
Hey, thank you. That's a perspective. Yes, Sandeep.
Yeah. So in my mind, motivation is a very internal element, right? It's what drives you. Engagement is kind of leveraging or including motivation and having interaction with external stakeholders, right? It could be stakeholders or forces or whatever. So motivation drives engage according to me, but not necessarily internally.
Okay. Earlier we heard Puneet saying engagement drives motivation, motivation drives engagement. Well, it's both ways, and but the important thing is, they are very similar, but there are some distinctions. My simple way of looking at it is, pretty much like Padmini says, motivation is the drive. Yeah. So motivation is the drive to accomplish something. Motivation is the drive to achieve something. Yeah. So achieve goals, meet your commitments, etc. That's all motivation. Whereas engagement is the emotional connect, the alignment that you feel with somebody else's, somebody else and with somebody else's goals. So in our context, engagement would be more about how emotionally connected do you feel with your team, with your organization, and how aligned do you feel with the goals and purpose of the organization, right? And these are distinct, right? So while one tends to reinforce the other, there are situations where you might have somebody with very high motivation but not very engaged. Yeah. We call these people lone wolves sometimes, right? So these are people who are kind of very motivated but don't feel engaged for some reason. Okay, so it's kind of more about achieving their own goals, doing what is best for themselves, right? And that's a natural state to be in at some point or the other. But that's what that looks like. On the other hand, there are people with very high levels of engagement but not very motivated. You might call these people cheerleaders, right? So these are the people who will kind of encourage, enthuse everybody, but when it comes to doing what they are supposed to do, they can't really find the motivation to doing that. And you'll find people in that state as well. Now, mind you, these are not labels, right? These are states that people find themselves in at different points in time, depending on what's happening around them. So not to label people, but just a kind of useful framework to look at. So given that motivation and engagement are what leads to accomplishment and alignment with the company's goals, etc., may be useful to look at some of the drivers, right? Anybody has any favorite frameworks around motivation or engagement that you'd like to mention at this time? Any idea of the drivers? Any favorite models or frameworks? If not, I'll share, but just wanted to check whether you have any. No. Okay. Let me share something out here. Chax, is the voice quality still poor? Can't you hear? Okay, I'll wait for Chax to respond to that, but let's kind of see where this is. Everybody is familiar with this model of choice.
Voice quality is getting better.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else sees that? Is the voice okay? Puneet?
For me, it is okay, Narayan.
Okay.
Yeah, me as well. It's good.
Okay.
Good call.
Okay. Chax, sorry, I don't think there's much I can do at my end then. So let's kind of go ahead. So this, everybody is familiar. I mean, these are the kind of, sometimes they call this more about, the labels can be different, but essentially it boils down to choice, connection, and competency. These are considered to be the key motivators for, key drivers for motivation. Anybody seen this before? Anybody has any views on this? Anybody's not seen this before?
Narayan, I see this for the first time.
Okay.
I haven't seen this before as well.
Okay, and you might have seen this in a different way also. Sometimes it's called autonomy, achievement, and connection or purpose. Sometimes it's called that. Yeah. Let's see. Seen but not sure what the framework is called. Well, I mean, let's just call it the drivers of motivation. Yeah. But here what we're talking about is people feel motivated when they have a sense that they have choice, right? So if people feel that they do not have choice and that they're compelled to do something, they're going to feel less motivated. Okay, so choice is an important element, and what can we do as managers, as leaders, or even as individuals to give ourselves more choice in any situation. The second thing is around competency, right? And that's sometimes it's called mastery as well. But really, it's about, am I learning? Am I stretching my capabilities? It works both ways. It has to be within your capabilities. It can't be something that's so far away from your capabilities that it breaks you rather than stretches you. At the same time, it can't be so easy that your work becomes routine, boring, etc. You have to have something to look forward to kind of grow and perfect, if possible in your domain. So that's the second part, which is competency. And the third is connection. And there are two aspects to connection. One is connection with people, right? So if you feel connected to your colleagues, to people around you, and especially to your manager, your motivation tends to be high. If on the other hand, you feel disconnected, you can't stand others in your team, etc., your motivation will be low, right? And the other aspect of connection is connection to your own purpose, your own goals. So, whatever you're doing at work, if you can connect it to your own purpose, your own vision, you feel more energized and more motivated by it. If on the other hand, and some of you may be familiar with this, right? If you're working in an organization where the direction the organization is taking is against what you believe personally, it becomes very difficult to enthuse yourself, to motivate yourself to continue, giving your best, right? So these are the three kind of key drivers. Anybody has any comments or questions on this so far?
No.
Okay.
Yeah,
tell me.
Narayan, sir, just one small thing.
Yeah.
All of these are interrelated, right? Now, how much of each of them should we have, or should we have all three of them in equal proportions in order to have motivation at the most optimal levels? Is there some sort of ratio amongst them?
No, but I think there's a threshold, right? So, the more, the better. But, if you don't have one, it tends to affect your motivation. You can't be fully motivated unless all three elements are in place, right? So it will affect your motivation. But beyond that, I don't think there's a golden ratio or, proportion that you need to ensure. It's more about, are you meeting threshold levels of, in each of these three areas. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Good.
Thank you.
Narayan, can I ask a question? Maybe
Sure.
maybe this is a very basic question. Why is choice so important? In most of the cases, you may not have a choice, but
Yeah.
you are continuing to do it
Yeah.
because you have a competency and you have a connection.
Yeah. So if you don't feel choice, right? The opposite of having a choice is being compelled, right? Being compelled to do something, right? And of course, you're being compensated for that, but sometimes the compensation may not be enough, right? So it's okay. You can kind of, so it goes back to this whole intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation kind of thing, right? If you don't feel choice, then you're being driven by something external, right? Which is purely monetary or, power or influence or some kind of driver like that. And there are limitations to how far that can take you. Yeah. So choice, anybody else thinks choice is not important?
Narayan?
This is Sandeep.
Yeah, Sandeep.
Yeah, so in this situation, I was just curious. There is something called a situation, right?
Yes.
And in a situation where their choice is not a variable,
Yes.
like now. So then I think in this situation, motivation, the choice element in the motivation framework would be substantially limited because nobody is taking away it's not like, to get paid, the organization is taking away that freedom of choice, right? But the situation prevents you from exercising choice. So in this situation, I think it's like extraordinary situation. So, I think choice would play a very limited role in the larger motivational storyline for in this event that is.
Okay. If I understand you right, you're basically saying our choices are restricted, right? In a situation like this.
Yeah. So situations, are as important as choices, and choice is a subset of situations.
Sure. And you're absolutely right, which is also, going back to what Padmini was asking, right? How important is each of them? Do they all need to be like, at the same level, or, is one more important than the other? So again, I would go back to saying, you need a threshold of each of these, right? And I would encourage you to not think of choice in binary terms, right? If you think of, multiple optionalities, multiple possibilities, right? Gradations of choice. Yeah. In a situation, how powerless versus powerful do you feel? How powerless versus empowered do you feel, right? So there's a difference between saying, I have no choice because, there's absolutely no way I can go to office, yeah, versus somebody, saying you are no longer allowed to come to office, right? So choice really is around, what possibilities can you create? What choices, what options can you generate? Yeah, within that, and that's an important part of dealing with motivation at these times. Yeah, sometimes people will feel that they absolutely have no choice. There's nothing they can do. So as leaders, we help them see that it's not quite binary like that, but they can and should make some choices, right? Generate some options. That make sense?
Yeah, actually, this is a good framework to think through at any situation.
Yes.
I can see this. This is very useful.
Yeah. Thank you. But Sandeep, do you see that?
No, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there needs to be. It's a correlational thing, right?
And it's not binary. It's not binary.
Yeah.
It's either, it's not yes, no, but, it's kind of, how can we expand the options that we have, right? So that's an important tool that we as leaders can exercise in any situation to help people feel more motivated, right? So that's an important insight. Thank you. Right. So we said motivation and engagement are different, and if you think about engagement, right? One of the most popular models is this one, and it comes from Gallup, I think, right? So anybody familiar with this? Anybody's not seen this? I need to improve my questions.
I guess we read more about Maslow's hierarchy needs, right? Which is like a 7-level pyramid of different sorts.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is, you could say, a subset of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. There are some kind of this thing, but you'll see that, some of these are slightly different, right? So, yeah, Maslow's hierarchy, the pyramid, this is definitely related to and a subset of that, I would say. Yeah.
So I haven't seen this.
Okay. So good. I mean, nice place to start. So if you're thinking of engaging people, one of the models is this one, the pyramid of engagement. And what it basically says is, at the very bottom is what you would call basic needs or hygiene factors, right? You can't do you can't do everything else and still not have the basics in place. Do people feel safe? Do people feel respected? Do people feel trusted? Do people feel secure in your organization? Are they do they think they're being compensated adequately? Right? This is not about I mean, everybody's needs and wants are endless, but at least are the basics being met? Right? So that kind of is table stakes, right? You can't do anything beyond this, right? The next level is leadership, and I'm sure all of you heard that where in any organization, in any team, the leader plays the most important role. The team leader or the boss, the supervisor, plays the most important role in how engaged a person feels within the team. Everybody's heard this? Yeah. Sometimes you would have heard that people don't leave jobs, people leave managers, right? So the leader's role is pretty important, but here the leader doesn't just mean the immediate supervisor. It's also the overall leadership of the organization, right? So you might have a good person as your supervisor, but if you think senior leadership is running the organization to the ground, or the values are not in the right place, etc., that can also impact you. So mostly your immediate supervisor, but also people further up the hierarchy, right? So leadership comes next, and the team, the people you're working with, yeah, that also comes. That's also very important. Can you get along with people? Can you trust other people in your team? Do you feel safe in the team? Everybody's heard this notion of psychological safety. Anybody's not heard about psychological safety?
I think it's an extremely important aspect of human life nowadays, especially because it percolates both professional and personal life.
Right.
Yeah, and there's a lot of focus on how we can improve upon this, right? Both internally in organizations as well as outside in networks.
Right. But if you were to kind of describe psychological safety in a couple of words, what would that sound like?
Would it be the kind of comfort level they have internally regarding the circumstances around them? the feeling of helplessness or hopelessness, which they generally feel around, right?
Yeah.
So the more or less of these proportions would be the more or less of the psychological safety levels, I suppose, within a person.
So how safe do you feel? How secure do you feel? How much you think your leader and your teammates have your back, right? How much risk can you take within the team? And when I say risk, it's not about financial risk or anything like that. But if I want to speak up about something, how comfortable am I speaking up? Yeah. So if I feel psychologically safe, I'm more likely to speak up. If I don't, I'm just going to zip up and keep things to myself, right? Bottle things in, which is not good, right? So psychological safety in the team, which the leader provides, but also we as team members provide to each other. So that's an important thing. And finally, growth, which is very much similar to the competency piece that we saw in the motivation model, right? Am I growing? What am I learning? Next month, next year, will I be a better developer, a better strategist, a better marketer than I am today? So is the organization affording me opportunities for learning and for career growth as well? So all of those is in that growth system. Any questions or thoughts? Puneet, any reactions?
Both models are new for me,
Okay.
but understand now. Yeah.
Okay. As a leader, which do you think is the easiest, and which do you think is the most difficult that you can facilitate for people in your team?
The middle two, I think, are definitely influenceable.
Yes.
The top one and the basic needs obviously is, basic needs, you deal at multiple levels. Obviously, it also is something personal and organizational as well.
Yes.
And growth again is, a combination of external and internal factors. But I think the middle two are absolutely influenceable, something that we should influence as leaders.
Yeah. So in absolute terms, you have the majority. I mean, unless you're, at the very top of the organization, unless it's your own business, unless you're the, the CEO or in that league, sometimes the basic needs and to a slightly lesser extent, the growth, this thing are not fully under your control, right? However, when it comes to, how you show up as a leader, you have the most influence on that, and how the team gels together. You also have a significant influence on that as well, right? Which brings us to, what do people expect from you as a leader? If I were to ask, each of you to mention one thing that your people expect from you, if you could enter that in the chat, that would be very nice. So one expectation that people in your team have from you, or you have from your manager, if you want to think about it that way, right? So could you please type in the chat? Just one thing is fine. It says fairness, loyalty and trustworthiness, and trust and clarity, direction. Yep. All very important, but about 10 years ago, or maybe it's 15 now, closer to 15 years ago, there was a survey done, of I think around 15,000 people globally. And while all the factors that you mentioned did show up, empathy, good one. The things that, most people, said they expect from their team leader is these four, right? Hope, compassion, stability, and trust. Anything here surprise you?
No.
Compassion.
Sorry?
Compassion was a surprise for me.
Compassion is a surprise. Okay. Say more.
Trust and hope, I think, are, ingrained in what everybody expects. Compassion is a little, now, do I expect compassion from my boss and my management? Answer is no, because I would be expecting empathy, right? Which is about, putting yourself in my position to understand it. But I don't need compassion. Compassion is a very, appears to be a little bit more, what do I say, right? Where you are not influencing some of these things, right? I mean, it's a very being compassionate, according to me, is not a very professional. It doesn't. I mean, I don't see it in the professional sense, the real thing to be after, right? Because I don't expect compassion. I expect fairness. I expect trust. I expect, direction. But compassion, I think, is asking for a little too much. My personal thought.
Okay. Anybody else agree with that?
Yeah, I find all the four relevant.
Okay.
Reacting to compassion, at first sight, it may look like something Oriental idea or Asian idea, rather than the Western mind of compassion, because what in all this IOCs, compassion is the last thing. But what, to my surprise, I found is even American leaders, whom I work with, some of them are more compassionate.
Yeah.
You feel a bit of connection there. That goes back to your last point. You feel connected because you feel trust and stability, also compassion. Okay, you feel in Western world to say that have your back covered.
Compassion is slightly different than have your back covered. I would
yes, but indirectly
safety thing. Right. What's the difference? Let's say, Sandeep, you brought an interesting point. I see that you agree that empathy, is something important, but you don't think compassion is the same. So, in your mind, what's the difference between empathy and compassion?
See, compassion, when I use compassion, I use it in a very, how to explain this? It's not something that I would expect to see on an everyday basis, right? Compassion happens. You go through a certain situation in life, and that's when I would use compassion as a, you lose somebody, and or you're going through a very difficult phase, and then it is compassion, right? I would expect my teams and me personally to lead with most situations in my personal life. That's my problem. That's exactly what I would expect. Professionally, there are certain decisions I would expect, empathy, right? I mean, just guys, I took a decision, right? You please back that decision basis where you would have seen me. So compassion, I think, is a little bit more personal. Empathy, I think, is a little bit more professional. So I'm making that distinction. That the word compassion itself, or that the feeling of compassion, it's a more personal thing than a professional thing.
Yeah. So, it really arises from this whole notion of there being different shades of empathy, right? So, there are people who can perfectly understand what you're going through, but then are not necessarily motivated to act on it. Okay. On the other hand, there are people who can get so empathetic about your situation that they get emotionally entangled with you. Compassion is about active empathy, right? So compassion is about, so let's say, there's something happening in my personal life which is impacting my work, right? And, as a leader, or let's say my expectation from my leader, of course, as a professional, I have to mind my own business, take care of my own affairs, absolutely true. But, do I want a leader who says, okay, I can see that, but tough luck, you still have to deliver? Or do I see a leader who says, okay, you're going through a difficult situation, we still have to meet this, but is there something I can do for you, right? That willingness to do something, that is what people expect, right? That's the compassion bit. This is not to say, ignore corporate reality, ignore the fact that we are here to deliver. Yeah, that's not what we mean here. But compassion is the willingness to say, okay, yes, you're a professional, you should take care of it, but if I can help you in some way, I'm here. Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, okay. So that's what we mean by compassion. Thank you. That's a really good question, and I hope this discussion was useful to clarify that. Okay. So idea is, with all these frameworks, if I were to ask you to say, what can we actually do as leaders, yeah, to drive, um, drive motivation, drive engagement in our teams. What are some ideas that you have? And just for the of it, what I want you to think in terms of is, see, as a leader, you're primarily out here. Yeah, your team is where your most attention is, your most important focus is. But if you're familiar with the notion of triple focus, I'd like you to think about it from three levels, right? What can I do to keep my members of my team motivated, right? Secondly, what can I do to keep myself motivated and engaged? Yeah, that's the second one. And thirdly, what can I try to advocate within my organization so that the organization as a whole is more motivated and kind of more engaged, right? Could each one of you take a minute to just think through these questions, and when you're ready, enter them in the, just write them down, and I'll kind of come back to you. So take a minute to think about the question. Again, is what can I do to encourage or to drive motivation and engagement in my team? What can I do to keep myself motivated and engaged? And what can I do to, or what can I advocate, right? There might not be much you can do directly, but what can I advocate to keep motivation and engagement high in my organization? So could you all take a minute or so to collect your thoughts? When you feel you're ready to share, just start speaking, right? Okay, we have something from Sandeep here. Others feel ready as well? Okay, so let me try and collect this here. Where are we? We go back to Microsoft PowerPoint, share. And what I want to do is maybe enter some of that. So Sandeep, could you kind of summarize what you said about myself?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of, limiting the entire story to motivation in current times so that, it's just easier to kind of. So for me, right, it's very important to continue what really works for me, right? I mean, which is being disciplined, getting into a certain regimen, right? Coming into work, logging in at a specific time. That keeps me motivated. I mean, it's important for me to not allow, the new way of working to distract from how I used to get work. So, being just able to, follow that regimented way of getting things done is a motivation, because for me, I'm really looking forward to a Saturday like tomorrow, right? Because I've done with the week and I really feel satisfied.
Sure.
For the team, it is, what really makes, to your point that you talked about, right, the connections, to be able to give them the focus and the connection even today, be it through video conferencing and the likes of it, staying engaged, periodically engaging with them through multiple mediums. Okay. And, understanding situations they are. And for the organization level, look, there are some hard realities. Being able to participate in that reality. I mean, it could be that, your variable pays, but a certain sacrifice. You just be a part of a larger, cause for the organization, and that really connects you with the larger cause. So I think these three things, I think are key to my motivation, teams, and others.
Okay, good. Who wants to go next? Padmini, I see you've got your inputs ready. Would you want to go next?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So for yourself.
Yeah. So for my own self, I would say I need to come out of self-denial, right? That this is not going to happen to me. It's only the others who will be affected. So I'm going to be like really safe. So that sort of thing never gets us along. So we should be able to accept the reality and think about how we can cope with this and get over this. So this is not the end of the world, sort of, right? Okay. So to motivate and engage the team, it's also important to create a positive, hopeful atmosphere for them so that they don't get dejected, depressed, that this is going to cause job losses, financial worries, and things like that. That will be the utmost on people's minds. So okay. I feel we should encourage them to upskill themselves, stay relevant, and also be prepared for the future, because tomorrow will never be the same as yesterday, right? Post-COVID. So it's necessary that they start preparing for the future where they can be valuable assets wherever they go to any company.
Very, right? Very relevant point. Yes. Yes.
So for my organization, I would say they have to become more resilient. They have to be able to weather the storm, whether this storm, next storm, whatever. And they should also be so successful that they need not fire people. They need not cut down costs, right? They should be able to tide over uncertainties by having enough funding, enough knowledge within the teams, enough leadership qualities, which will help them really get over any such crisis.
Okay. Quite a good list there. Thank you. Who wants to go next? Puneet, you feel ready to add something?
Sure, Narayan.
Yep.
On this, I mean, building on the comments, what have already been said, I think for self, for me as well, I think Sandeep mentioned in the beginning, that I think the discipline is the key. How I feel that gives a lot of motivation and structure to the whole thing. I'm more focused, I would say, on both the team and the organization aspect.
Okay.
And therefore, team, if you look at the middle part of the pyramid, and I think someone made a comment already earlier that as leaders, what we can always influence the most is how we come across as leader and how the teams feel, I mean, comfortable with the team. I mean, how each one feels comfortable with the team. I think there, especially given current scenario, I think is very relevant. For example, I mean, when we talk about how we come across as leader, I think it's very, very important that in today's time, when interacting with our teams or other colleagues, we first of all come across as someone who's quite calm and composed and assured, how you manifest that on your team. Yeah, I mean, this is a challenging time for everyone, but I think that's very important. And the second aspect, which is team feeling connected and engaged with each other, I think that's the other key aspect, which is making sure that teams are connecting via virtual ways every day.
So the team connecting with each other, right?
Yes, when connecting with each other through video calls every day, even catching a beer on Friday evening, are very important, because that gives the feeling of the team. Also, especially everyone is more or less trapped at home.
Right.
So everyone has that need of social interaction, and not just only on work topics, but also a bit more social interaction.
Indeed.
Then on the organization, I think
sorry, in the team, your first point, is it captured here already, or did I miss something?
I can't see actually in the screen. What I see is just the top bar of the presentation. I don't know about others.
Really? Others, can you see the PPT?
No, we can't. We can just see a red bar.
You can just see a red bar. Okay. Well, that's kind of okay. This is what it looks so far. Okay. What was your? You see it now?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there?
I thought, yeah.
Then
go
I
ahead.
think the last point towards the organization, I think we need to adapt. All of us, I mean, for ourselves as well as our teams, we need to adapt how we add value to the organization as the situation demands. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, a concrete example of this, like driving sales excellence, is a responsibility for me, for the region. Yeah.
Right.
And one way we do it is, I mean, do several initiatives. We do how we can sell online.
Yeah.
How we, I mean, we do look for improvement. But when such a situation like this arises,
yes,
of course, those become less relevant.
Yeah.
But first of all, I mean, we say if you have 1,000 salespeople in this region that you need to take care of, providing them very concrete guidance on how they can be effective from home, what learnings they can do, how to make a phone call to a customer while working from home, what are the tips, etc. So I think need to adapt quickly.
Yes.
To the new organizational requirement.
Yes.
And in that, it was a bit of a shock to me, because 80% of what I was driving, I mean, in my strategy role, it's always more about growth, what's new, what's next, was irrelevant in this time. I mean, this became a lot more about how we manage continuity, how we support the people, etc. So I think as leaders, we need to be mindful that we may need to adapt our team goals very quickly.
Yeah. Thanks for that. Siddharth, do you have something?
Narayan, just one last comment. I was able to see the green screen earlier with the comments, but again, I can't see, and it's just a red bar. Yeah. Now
so it looks like I can either, you can only see it in presentation mode. You can't see the edit mode, and I'm typing as you're as you're speaking. So at those times, but here's what it looks like at the moment, right? So, Siddharth, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, Narayan.
Yes.
So, my viewpoint is, for myself, it's mostly about discipline. For myself, it's mostly about discipline.
Okay.
For the team, I think what is currently happening is we are more reactive than we are proactive. So that is one thing that I think we should improve on.
Okay.
In the sense, we do a lot of stuff based on the current situation rather than approaching it from a different angle.
Okay.
As for the company, I think we should plan better for these scenarios. Currently, the situation is we planned for a lot of things, and all of those projects were moved away because of the COVID situation.
Yeah.
So, keeping these revenue in mind, we should execute things better rather than.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks a lot. This is what the thing looks like at the moment. So, Jax, what would you add?
I think it's from the angle of what is the higher purpose you're working towards? What is really driving
your own your own thing?
Yes,
so, what is your purpose? Okay.
What is the higher purpose I'm working towards, and what keeps me awake and what keeps me connected? So, I'll focus on that, and I'll remind people working with me of the higher purpose, why we are doing this, and why we need to continue to do this at this point. Okay. And definitely, there is going to be challenges ahead, and collectively, we should say that we are going to solve that this situation.
Okay.
That's what I'm looking at.
Situation. Right. Thank you. So this is what it looks like at the moment. Yeah. I had kind of jotted down a few things myself. Right. So in terms of self, one thing that I don't see here is learning. Okay. One thing to, that you can, if you're able to at this time, is to see how you can further your own learning, right? What new skills can you pick up? What skills can you hone further? What new, avenues can you explore? So learning is something that didn't come through. The other one really was stay connected, not just with your team, but with, all the important people in your life, right? People you met in life, people who you have lost touch with, right? So I'm always thrilled when, somebody calls me up, out of the blue. And, just yesterday I had a call from someone that I've not met after high school, right? Somehow found my profile and my number and connected with me. And, that also tells me I should be doing more of that, right? Reach out to people that I know I've not really been connecting with. People who are significant, important, have been fellow travelers, in your past. So, in terms of connection, most of you have talked about discipline and routine. I also would encourage structure and boundaries, right? What does that mean? If possible, when you're working from home, try and have, a separate physical space where you can work from, working from your dining table, working from your living room, can pose constraints on other members of your family, right? So if possible, find a nook that, you are less disruptive to others. Also, it helps your own focus and productivity, right? So that one, and boundaries, right? Boundaries in terms of time. Yeah. Some of the people, that I talk to say it's become very difficult to, because they're no longer commuting. There's no longer distance between where they work and where they are now, to switch off for the day. We've all faced this already because of, email and push mail on our phones, etc. But right now, even that last vestige of, I'm no longer in the office, has also gone. So establish those boundaries. I think Sandeep mentioned, he's looking forward to that Saturday. I think that's very important, right? Even if you can't switch off completely, try and protect as much of your off time, personal time, family time as possible. So that's on the self part. In terms of team, I think you've covered most of it. One concrete thing I would suggest is, if you're having one-on-ones with your team, already increase the frequency, right? This is the time to have more of those personal one-on-ones. At the same time, of course, give them choice, right? That doesn't mean you call them whenever you feel like, but make them suggest when is the best time to kind of call, with them. If you have the ability, again, in terms of choice, if you have the ability, let them pick the deadlines, right, for the assignments. Yeah. Sometimes it's not possible. It's a client deliverable. It's a project. It's ongoing. It's not possible. But wherever possible, if somebody says, "Hey, I can't quite deliver this today, but I'll definitely do it tomorrow afternoon," be more accepting of that. Yeah. And in terms of the organization, I think it really depends on how much influence you have. Yeah. But again, encourage more learning opportunities. I think you've done that. And of course, build more resilience within the organization. All very good points. Thank you very much. Right. When you are actually doing all of this, I think one important thing we as managers must remember is to balance psychological safety and accountability, for example. So don't overdo it, right? What does that mean, right? This is a small 2x2 which shows that, yeah. So if the level of psychological safety is very high, but there's not much accountability, yeah, people can fall into a rut. I mean, people just fall into their comfort zone and there's not much happening in terms of productivity, growth, etc. It will be a challenge, right? So don't just be understanding, empathetic, compassionate, provide. All that is important. This is not to say that's not important. You should still provide high levels of psychological safety, but together with that, bring in that element of accountability, right? So because this is where, yeah, people learn most and are most productive, right? The others, I think the places to avoid are, of course, we talked about, people being kind of in a rut, in a comfort zone, but also, where you're not providing enough psychological safety, right? People can feel very anxious. They don't know what is there. So, part of that hope, compassion, stability, to the extent that you can, yeah, you should continue giving, because you want to be in the upper half of this matrix, not in the lower half. The worst part is here where, you don't care and they don't care, right? So it's kind of total apathy, which is a really bad situation to be in. Okay. So before we kind of wind up, could I request all of you to privately just note down one takeaway and one commitment, right? If you're willing to share, brilliant. But even if you're not willing to share, just write down for yourself, because you've invested, the last 1 hour almost, right, on this call. If there is something of value, it only comes from the action you take, not from the knowledge you gain. The value comes from action you take. So please, can you list down one takeaway and one commitment? And those who are open to sharing, please do so.
Narayan, I can quickly share.
Sure.
I think for me, after we went through the table, and
yes,
the point you mentioned about learning
is
a key takeaway for me. I mean, of course, apart from everything else as well, but as something which I think I had missed completely over last few weeks. And a commitment related to that also is that I would actually take up a goal on learning and making sure that, continue to learn along with other responsibilities. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Anybody else?
Yeah, I would like to share the one takeaway which I felt I could take from this session was about that final point from you, Narayan, where the fine balance required between psychological safety and accountability needs to come into action.
Yes.
So we shouldn't overdo or underdo in either of these spheres. So that's really a testing thing, right? It's not magic. We need to go rounds to achieve that. And one commitment I think would be the connection part. Yeah. Try calling somebody distant or somebody who you have lost touch with over the years. Maybe one person per week, per day. Yeah. Whatever
you can.
And show some solidarity.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Yeah, Narayan. Through these lectures, I like the frameworks you have brought in. It helps us to think through and apply in various situations we have been in life. And it's a robust discussion around. And thanks to everyone for that attending. And second is the last framework personally was one of the few situations I was in. So I could really think about this psychological safety versus accountability, particularly at the client side. So You need to give that safety, psychological safety to the person while demanding accountability. So both goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any commitment?
Yeah, this last one is important. That's a learning, so I will take it.
Okay. Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else wants to share?
Yeah, see, Sandeep said, so
Yes.
I like that entire framework, in terms of apathy and, the fine balance, something that we take for granted.
Yeah.
But I think that visually represents a lot of, what everybody is really striving to do.
Right.
And also perhaps the entire, extend the connect, right? I like that concept as well. Perhaps reach out and do a lot more with your extended circle. Which you possibly best time to do it is now because everybody seems to have some more time than they normally do. So it's great. And I think what I really liked about it, small group. Everybody was had a point of view, and
Yes.
it's interesting to hear each other's points of view. Although the narratives seem to be very similar, there were minute differences, and that spoke quite a bit about different ways of thinking. So, quite interesting.
So, before we applaud ourselves, just want to share this on a philosophical note. Taking action is key. Don't wait for the right moment to start. Start and then make each moment the right one. Yeah. So, that's kind of something that to take away with us. And before we close, one shameless plug. Some of you already know this. Yeah, I've just launched a new community. This is for people who are looking for more coaching, more guidance during these times. Yeah. So there is private one-on-one coaching via WhatsApp, a weekly audio group call, a monthly live video training, somewhere along these lines. Yeah, personal leadership development plan, growth, etc. And then regular sharing on key trends and approaches. If you or anybody you know are interested in this, please do reach out, and would be happy to send you more information. So with that, let's give ourselves a round of applause for here. Before that, could I request? If you're comfortable, could you switch on your video? Just so that we see ourselves at least momentarily. If not, it's perfectly fine. But if you can, that would be great. Yeah, there we are. There we go. Right? You go. So can see each other. Thank you. Thank you very much. I hope this has been a useful session. I will send you a recording of this and the slides, and you're on my list. So the next time I do something like this, I'll inform you, and hope you can join that time as well. So thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you, Narayan. Very useful.
Thank you, Narayan.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Very informative session. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Stay safe.
Thanks a lot.